Do you want a foldable phone? Would you use a foldable phone? This is Mac Voices. This edition of Mac Voices is supported by the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter to keep you up on all the latest from Mac Voices. Watch or listen to Mac Voices straight from your email client. Sign up at macvoices.com/newsletter and stay up to date. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, the Mac Voices Live panel wraps up this session with a renewed discussion of foldable phones, because some of the panel members have had interactions with foldable phones or people using them. Let's go back and let the panel do the talking. Again, I know we're going to be talking about this for a long time because there's so many angles to it and so many things. And I think you're right, Mark. A lot of this stuff didn't become feasible until relatively recently, depending on how you look at the time scale. And the things, and when it started out slow, nobody really appreciated it. And then just like checking in back in the day, using, what was it? Was it Foursquare? Do I have that right?
Yeah, Foursquare.
Yeah, Foursquare. Yeah, some of those, we didn't realize what we were giving away because it was just fun. And then when we found out, we all stopped doing it. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe that's what's happening here. I did want to get to one other topic because I sort of advertised it in some of the chat announcements or the show announcements, and that's foldable phones.
Wait, you had an agenda and we're anywhere near it at this point now we're in?
Yeah, believe it or not, we're doing pretty good. But I had, in the last 3-4 weeks, I've had a couple experiences with foldable phones. One may or may not have been at MacStock when a MacStock attendee may or may not have had a foldable phone that he or she showed me. And it was one of the newer ones, and he or she had only had it for a couple weeks. So the screen was all nice and bright and shiny and new, and there was almost no seam that could be seen. But of course, it hadn't been used very much. Then this week in Las Vegas, I ran into a couple other people that had foldable phones, and they were letting me hold them and play with them a little bit. And I guess I came away with a couple different reactions, that they were thicker. And so all of a sudden I really became a fan of Johnny Ive, wanting to have everything thinner because I don't need that. They were heavier. Not obnoxiously so, but they were still definitely heavier. And more importantly, though, when I opened it up, I didn't feel like the screen gave me a lot of useful. It didn't have any kind of decent aspect ratio that lent itself to anything in particular. It just was more screen. So. And of course, and neither one of these were very old, so you don't know how that's going to, how the crease is going to turn out. One of them did have one of the exterior, when it's closed, one of the exterior screens, but what you could do on that felt very limited. And I guess it would be okay just to be able to look down and see like caller ID or a chat or something like that, or a text, I should say, but. It just didn't. I didn't have anything here that really made me say, "Gee, I really, really want one of these." And I'm curious to see if any of you have had any experiences or have any thoughts on what a phone would want. But poor Ben's is I think Ben, Kelly, and Webb all were like, "Oh my God!"
I think Kelly got it first.
Did she? Okay.
By all means, Ben, I know you will have stronger opinions about this than I do. So by all means.
Is it possible to have stronger opinions than you, Kelly?
I've known Ben a really, really long time, so I'm here to tell you the answer is yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So Ben, go for it. I mean, am I missing something?
Maybe in the execution, but I do have a friend that I see quite frequently who has a Samsung Galaxy Foldable. Why that might not be the phone I want. The ability, I mean, when I'm looking, I do want a foldable, and the ability that I'm looking for is basically something that goes from an iPhone into an iPad mini. I mean, there's also other use cases like basically a smaller or a a iPhone Max type that folds down into a smaller vertical point, but with basically a Apple Watch on the back of the thing. But I think that larger phone that basically goes from phone to tablets is the spot I would like to be at. That's the spot I would like Apple to be at, selfishly. But I think we're at the point where with foldables, where we might be 4 generations in, but we're still in beta testing, if that.
Okay.
But it's kind of where I was with the big screen phones in the days of the iPhone 5. You can see where stuff is going, but we're going to have to take a few steps to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen one that had been used for some time. I don't know if it was an entire year, but it had been quite a while, and it had held up. But the thing that I see when I look at those, which is I want to carry around something smaller, and then I want to look at something bigger, does not say to me foldable. What it says to me is something that I used to have. Well, I say used to, but it's probably in that closet behind me, which was a Palm Pilot that was the tungsten T3 specifically, because what it did was the bottom of it slid down, and then the part that you wrote on, it had more screen than a Palm 5X. And then when you pulled it down and when you carried it around, it was kind of the same dimensions as a 5X. But you pulled this down, and then you had the silk screen on the bottom, or it was digital, so it could go away. So if you're Kelly, then you can read books, because I read so much on that Palm Pilot. You had more usable screen when you wanted to have more screen, and then you closed it back up to be Palm VX size and stuck it in your pocket and moved on with your day. And I will point out that the thing that really irks me about these is everybody talking about how excited they are because that little phone that you have to fold in half finally fits in someone's pocket, because it doesn't fit in men's pockets. It fits in women's pockets. And I don't see a lot of women carrying those things around. And as a piece of technology, a screen that you can fold feels like it might be there, but we literally haven't had them long enough to say, I've been folding this screen a bajillion times a day, every day for the last 3 years, and here's what it looks like, and it's fine. See, everybody, we're not there yet. I want to be, because I want technology to be durable. I want it to be awesome. I want it to be usable, and it's not usable if you have to go, oh, I've unfolded my phone 4 times today. Am I pressing my luck a year from now if I unfold it time number 5? It needs to be a thing that you can just do. And I feel like we might be that far, but the aspect ratio is the part that I also had a hang up with when I was looking at it. Was like, everything on this phone feels weird because it's not quite right. And it's not because it's not iOS, it's because it's not kind of a reasonable aspect ratio. Like, I've used Android phones that are kind of a relative size to each other, and those things look fine. But on one of these phones, it's like an accommodation has to be made no matter what you're looking at, and it feels a little odd.
But Kelly, pardon me, it felt like it was going back to a 4:3 aspect ratio as opposed to a 16:9 or something like that. And maybe it's because we've gotten used to that longer ratio for certain uses, or just rotated into portrait mode. But it just, I mean, everything I looked at, it just felt like, man, there's a lot of wasted space here.
Yeah,
that I'm kind of struggling with.
Agreed, but I really like, and I see he just left. Apparently, he knew I was going to agree with him, and he fainted. But I like Ben's idea of maybe you have a Pro Max, and the Pro Max opens up and now it's an iPad mini sort of dimension, like something like that. I mean, that to me would make a lot more sense than I have a phone that looks like one of the old square ones like my mom used to have that had the keyboard inside so you could text people easily. Like the actual dimensions of the folded one feels like a step backwards. So like if you want to take a Pro Max and turn it into an iPad mini half the time, that makes way more sense to me. And I feel like it makes, we've been talking about users and extracting money from people and all that kind of stuff. That feels like the way to go, because the world is getting older and more reliant on reading glasses and more reliant on, if my arm was just long enough, I could see the menu just fine. And anything you can do to give people more screen is going to make them happier. And the reason that I say that is because if everybody remembers back to the OG iPhone, because I point this out all the time, that OG iPhone came out. Now you look at that first iPhone and you want to pinch its little cheeks, right? Like, who's a cute little iPhone? And at the time, upon release, people looked at that slab with horror and went, who in their right mind would carry around a phone that big? This is my point. So people change, eyesight changes, macular degeneration is a thing. And if you can give me a Pro Max that turns into even more phone, like, I don't know. I literally do not know a single person who would be mad about that.
Oh,
Dave? Or no, Guy. Excuse me. Guy's next. Then Dave.
maybe Brittany.
Yeah,
No, Webb was
It
next.
was never Brittany's phone in the first place, and we all know that.
Yes, I'm sorry. God, I'm having a terrible time tonight. Webb, then Guy. Excuse me.
You there with the face talk.
Yeah, thanks. You some of you have seen these things. I haven't seen one yet in real life. So everything that I'm about to say is just based on conjecture, and if the lore is bigger than the truth, follow the lore. I'm not interested in it. I like the iPhone factor that I have right now. I do kind of agree with Ben that I could probably see that more on the on the iPad side. That could be a little bit more interesting to me. But everything that I've heard, and I haven't heard a lot, the technology just might not be there yet. But it goes back to, like I said, back 20 years ago when I did the QuickTime streaming. It's going to get better, and maybe it's going to have a compelling reason. Right now, I'm pretty happy with the size phone. There you go. I'm pretty happy with the size phone. I'm sure the 15, when it comes out here in about a month, is going to be probably bigger, maybe by millimeters, but still going to be bigger. So I haven't
so everyone
seen
needs a new case. We know the truth.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Case conspiracies.
Anyway, so I don't know. It's the iPad thing kind of seems a little bit more intriguing to me. The commercials on TV where you have the phone flipped up at 90 degrees and you're standing there doing your TikTok videos in front of it. That's not me. So.
I don't buy that, Webb. I think you're a secret TikToker myself.
Yeah, I don't even have a TikTok account.
Oh, it's not secret, Chuck.
Thanks.
Webb, I'm sorry, Webb. I didn't mean to out you in the middle of the show, but I'm 100% on to you.
You're wrong, Kelly. He's on OnlyFans.
Oh no, I wasn't talking. We're saving that for after dark, guys.
Oh, sorry.
We talked about
I
this.
knew I shouldn't have come on the show tonight.
Yeah, I know.
So the first person that can send us a TikTok of Webb doing the boogaloo, I want that. I want that.
Yeah,
video.
there's some chat AI thing that's going to be popping up on that. So
I look forward to people's nefarious uses of AI in this one specific instance.
Now I'm looking forward to deep fakes. I'm with you, Kelly. Guy, I'm sorry. I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. What's up? You and your purring cat.
Yeah. Samsung's problem, while it is somewhat related to technology, isn't the technology that's in the phone. Their problem is Android. They keep trying to do things that will set them apart from all of the other Android makers. They tried it with DeX. They've tried it with various other technologies, and it always fails because it usually requires some kind of bastardization of Android to make it work. And the moment you do that, a lot of the applications that people like to use on Android stop working in the way that people expect them to work, because this app was never created to go from being a 16 by 9 type of app to a bigger iPad or small tablet type of app. And this is the failure each and every time, which is why. And I mean, we're all kind of Apple fanboys, but it's why Apple has the advantage in this, because they have their own platform and they're the ones that determine how things are going to work. And once they've make that determination, then the people that make the apps jump on board or they don't. So foldable phones, until Android comes to terms with how foldable phones are going to work on their platform, Samsung and other companies that make foldable phones are going to be outliers that really aren't going to have much of an impact.
I have known people who traded in Samsung phones, continued to use Android, and got different phones because anything Samsung was doing in the name of being notable, in the name, like exactly like you said, Guy, in the name of being different, in the name of distinguishing themselves, in the name of being interesting, broke fundamental interactive transactions, with your device. And like, I can't do it the way I did it before because Samsung decided it needed to fold. It needed to be this size. It needed to have a stylus, whatever. And Samsung trying to get away from that, but trying to get away from that and not just forking it and making their own devices. That was fork, F-O-R-K, making a different version of Android. So Chuck doesn't have to edit. The way Kindle does, because Kindle devices are Android devices, but they don't run Android. They run Kindle, which started the same and took a left turn at Albuquerque. And if Samsung really means this and wants to be taken seriously as a mobile provider, they need to do the same thing. They need to have Samsung OS instead of just basically making everything Samsung-y instead of an Android phone, which I know people who have been endlessly frustrated by this and ultimately stopped buying Samsung devices for that reason.
Yeah, but they won't do it. They won't do it because they still want to have all of the applications and all the development work that goes along with being using the Android OS.
With being an Android device, right?
Yeah, this is what screws them over each and every time. Like I don't know. Did you ever try DeX?
DeX, no.
It was like you plug a phone into
I saw it. Yeah.
Okay, it was like Windows from an Android device. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, it was brilliant. But the problem was a lot of the applications that people wanted to use wouldn't switch over to that new environment. And it required a whole nother settings application just to make things work. And if you have to go to 2 different settings applications just for basic functionality, people aren't going to do that.
So until Google catches folding fever, we're never going to see this happen.
At least not on the Android side. Apple could do it because they make the hardware, they make the software.
Right.
So they write the rules.
Hey, I want to get the chat room in here. It's been kind of quiet tonight, but Brad has brought in a couple points that are worth mentioning. Apple has already said they're not interested in a foldable phone, but are interested in a foldable iPad. And he says an iPad is about 3 times the size of an iPhone Pro Max model. Okay, that's probably about right. And there was also talk of an iPad larger than 12.9 inches, which doesn't really relate to this unless you think that a foldable might be the way they get to being larger than 12.9.
It's called an iMac. And
and it doesn't fit in your pocket.
And that doesn't go in anybody's pocket. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. So he also said maybe a pair of iPad mini displays that offer a fold. which Kelly seemed to feel that was a horrible idea. This is the bottom line. I think, especially an $1,800 foldable is a hard sell. And that I do agree with, unless you can show me, make a compelling point for something it was doing. Because, I mean, again, when I have these things in my hand and open them up, it's like your first reaction is, boy, what a whole lot of great, beautiful screen real estate. But then you start to see what it can do in that real estate. And it's like, no, this just doesn't, there's just so much wasted space. And maybe app designers, if they designed for something closer to a 4:3 aspect ratio, maybe that would improve it. But for what I saw, there was nothing compelling there.
And those apps would have to switch between the two environments on the fly.
Yeah. Mark, you wanted had another comment.
Yeah, I know two people who have foldable Samsung models. One that opens, sort of, side by side, and this guy is works in a Microsoft integrator, and I first saw the phone late last year, November, December, and I think I may have commented on a MacVoices Live, way back when, and sort of, I guess originally the reason we got it is, they used to have Microsoft phones, but as those, aged out and broke, the company would get them new phones, but it had to be some sort of Android device. iPhones were specifically not available. Yes, so he got the foldable phone, and I asked him what he thought about it, and he said, "Well, I've had it for about 6 months now, and it at first it looks great because you can see it, but over time you get wear and tear, and you start to see the seam where the screen is. So instead of seeing one big, large, beautiful picture, which is what everyone does when they get it, you start to see there's a crease in the middle." And he said what he would use it is he would have two different apps, one on each side, so that if he got a phone call, was having lunch or something, he could pop open the phone and look at whatever the internal app is, and then he could do a Skype or Microsoft Teams or something with the other customer and use it that way as sort of a bigger screen pocket computer. I asked him what he thought about it, and he said, "Oh, it's a lot heavy. It's heavy in my pocket." Okay, so makes sense, right? There's two screens, two batteries, so on and so forth. The other thing was last week with a civil engineer, for a personal project of ours, and at one point, he took a phone out and took a picture, and then handed me the phone to see it. And I looked at it, and I figured, okay, this is an Android phone of some sort, and it had a nice big screen. Later on, as we were finishing our meeting, he took it and he folded it, and I said, "Oh, I said, is it foldable?" And I said, "Yes." He says, which one is it? I guess he had, is it the Flip Z5 or Flip 5 or whatever their latest phone is. And I asked him, "How do you like it?" And he says, "Well, I like it because it fits in my pocket. I used to have an Android, and it would always constantly fall out of my pockets, when I'm on job sites and things. So I could see that." But I said, "Yeah, but how do you like it?" And he says, "Well, it's heavy, it's expensive, and because when folded, it was about 3 times the width of an iPhone. So even an iPhone in a case. So he used it. I said, "Well, what's the benefit of text?" He says, "Oh, I can be at work, and I get very involved in what I'm doing. I can set that up so I can watch if I get a text from my wife or my children." And I guess that was his use case for foldability.
Wow, I've got an Apple Watch for that. Hey, we're pretty much already past time. Kelly had to go, and apparently Ben's internet knocked out on him. So that's why he disappeared too. I had two other very quick things I just want to mention. They probably don't bear any discussion. The first one is that, I'll throw this in. Apple, the Apple Card savings account claimed $10 billion in deposits for Goldman Sachs. And of course, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Goldman Sachs saying they lost $1 billion on the Apple Card. So I don't know how you mismanage $10 billion worth of deposits to lose $1 billion, but it is what it is. And the last thing I don't even have a link for, and that is to just note that there have been articles out there that Cortana, Microsoft's assistant, is being discontinued, which pretty much leaves the S lady and the A lady as the last,
standing.
The last lady standing. Thank you, Guy. Yeah. I don't know even what that means, except to say that, it's just another one of those things that Microsoft said was going to be great, and they have decided to pull the plug on. And it was always better than Siri, from what I saw, the very limited experience I had. So goodbye, Cortana. Anything else before we get out of here? Anything that is on anybody else's mind? If not, okay.
Oh, yeah. So, there's rumors out about Apple having an event on either a Wednesday or a Thursday, or a Tuesday or a Wednesday. What's up with that? Normally everybody just nails the date,
Give it a few days.
Yeah, give it a few days. But, the time frame would be pretty much right there where it's expected to be. So,
yeah,
we'll see. I don't know about you guys. I pop up my news feed, and everything is rumors.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So especially this time of year.
Yeah, but it's even worse now, guys. I swear, because 90% of it is rumors. So I've almost stopped paying attention to some of it. Let's go around the room and let folks know where they can find you. And for Ben and Kelly, their links and everything will be in the show notes, so you can find them there. So I'm going to take it the way we started it. Guy Serle, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate it.
How do we follow along with all the interesting things you do?
Well, if you look for Mac Parrot on most of the social media sites, you'll probably find me there. There's also vertshark.com, the mymac.com podcast that I've been doing since 2009 with Gaz, and Guy's Daily Drive, which is kind of taken a hiatus for a little bit while I deal with some other stuff. And Guy at mymac.com is the email address. And 703-50. I almost said my own telephone number there. I'm going to stop right there. I can't even think of what it is right now. But if you go to the mymac.com site and look up a MyMac podcast, there's a phone number there that you can call and be on the show. And that's all I got. I'm going to be quiet now.
Well, he gave you 703, folks, so you only had, 7 more numbers to figure out. So just start dialing. You'll get the guy eventually.
Hey, you know what? All of the solicitors have managed to figure it out, so you should be able to, too.
There you go. Dave Ginsburg, thank you for being here as well. What's the best place for folks to catch up with you?
You can find me at In Touch with iOS, intouchwithios.com, YouTube channel, youtube.com/intouchwithios. I'm here on Tuesday nights and also on the Mac Show on the British Tech Network on Fridays. And you can find me on the socials, mostly at DaveG65, Mastodon, X, and plenty other places. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, David. This is the second week in a row, Eric, that you've just been so zenned out that, you just kind of sit there and take it all in. And when you finally burst forth, it's going to be something.
Yeah, or, all of a sudden there's going to be a sound of water fountains and some birds singing. And I'm just going to drift off and fade away.
Twinkies frying.
Yeah, with bacon. Mm.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be good. Mm. Cream puffs. Definitely have to get the cream puffs.
Where can folks find you, Eric, before you make us all hungry?
Starting to drool. Yeah. Yeah, EA Bolden at techhub.social on Mastodon.
Here you go, Eric.
There's a tissue.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's getting weirder by the minute, and that means we're up next with Web Bixby. Where can folks find you?
Yeah.
Well, you guys are picking on me tonight. That's for sure. You know, I told you I have this new office. This used to be the guest bedroom. Now it's my office. So I got a new desk and all kinds of stuff. And I was sitting here and I went through all the different social medias that I'm connected to. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. They're all pretty much the same. It's Web Bixby. If there are 3 B's, you're right. If you put a 4th B in there, you spelled it wrong because web only has 1 B in it. So, but I'm on the Facebook, the Instagram, the Threads, the LinkedIn, the X, the Mastodon, and the Blue Sky. So you can find me there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Always good to have you. Always good to pick on you.
Yeah, thanks.
Mark Fuccio. Mark Fuccio, you're still just Sonoma-ing every week. I would be interested to see what happens next week.
So, me too. Me too. So easiest place to find me is I guess, that site formerly known as Twitter at MarkFuccio or at LinkedIn.
Great. Thanks so much, Mark.
Thank you for.
I want to thank the chat room as always for being here. They were kind of quiet tonight. I guess we were just so captivating that they didn't have that much to say, or they fell asleep. I'm not sure which. We do this craziness every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'd love to have you join us. Throw your comments and thoughts in the chat room as well. I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.